Okay, we are going to record how to do UDP client UDP server Python program, and I will try not to cough too much or edit that out. If I do, I've got my Python idle program open right here. I want to do a new file, so file, new file. It'll open up a new file for me, which I will then save. We'll just save it as, let's see, we'll save it as the UDP client new v2. I already have a UDP client new in there, so save that. First, we're going to import a couple of classes for us, the socket and the system one. So that's import socket and import sys. Then once we do that, we create the UDP socket. And a socket needs two things. It needs a server address and it needs a port in order to create an actual socket. Well, this socket, we're going to assign it to a variable. You can call it whatever you want. We'll just call this one sock. And we're going to say, okay, this first AF underscore inet, this is telling me that it's an IPv4 address. Okay? This next one is going to tell us what kind of stream we're using, the kind it is. So the first one's the address family. The second is the kind of stream. We are going to be UDP. So that one is socket dot sock underscore dgram for datagram. And then there's no semicolons at the end of statements. Statements are indicated with a new line return. So after we do that, we're going to get the server address, and we're just going to hard code it in this case. You, however, will be getting an input from the user, and the videos that are already posted show how to get the input from the user. So you'll get the input from the user, and then you'll assign the server address here from that input, what the server address is and the port is. So we've got that server address and that port in there, and then we're going to define some sort of a message that we want to display. You can define whatever message you want for the quote of the day. Once we've done that, we're going to throw this in a try block. Now the try block is denoted by indentation. So if it's indented, it is part of this try block. Same thing with functions and methods. If it's indented, it belongs to that. Any block of code, anything that belongs to that block of code needs to have indentation, because we don't use semicolons or curly brackets. We use new lines and indentation in Python. Alright, so we're going to print this formatted excuse me, this formatted string, and it's going to bring in whatever my message is. So whatever I put after the end of my second percent here, and that's going to be my message. So whatever this message is, it's going to bring that in and stick it here. Okay, this next line is important because this method, this send to method, expects the message in byte format. And if it doesn't get it, if we don't do the dot encode, it won't be sending it in byte format. So we need to do that in order to convert it over to bytes, and then pass in our server address that we created previously, and that it will return the information, or it will call this send-to method, pass in this information, and then store it in this send variable. Sorry about that. I had a little bit of a coughing fit. So we're calling this send-to method, and we're passing it in our message and our address, and it's going to return the number of bytes sent. Excuse me. Every Unix-based system has a input and output based sort of a pipeline. Standard input, standard output. And this STD error stands for standard error. This is for debugging purposes. Allows you to see any sort of errors that have occurred that can be printed out to the screen. So it's a good thing to have in there when you're writing a program to be able to kind of debug and see what is going on. So we're going to print out that we're waiting to receive. Okay, and on this next line, we call this, should be a dot, sorry, the sock dot received from, and we pass it in a 4096 port number, and we say, okay, we're going to get two things returned back to us. We're going to get the data returned back, and the server information returned back to us. Again, this is just some formatting right here. We can say, hey, we received this data. Whatever data that is, it'll be put into this location that is being kind of set there as a placeholder for it. Then we'll execute our finally block. and we'll print out that we're closing the socket. Then we'll call the close method. I'm doing this finished equals input simply because if you don't have some sort of input waiting at the end, excuse me, then the window will close too fast for you to see anything that was going on. Okay, so that is our first video for the UDP client. Thank you all.